Entirenet presents the Learning and Development Industry's Thought Leadership Interview Series with your host, yours truly, Mojo Tillett. I'm excited to sit down and talk to my friend John Delano. We worked together at T-Mobile, and T-Mobile you were in a leadership position in learning and development, so I think you went off and did this adventure on your own.
Yes, absolutely.
We've sat down and talked about this Experience API stuff a couple of times and what you guys are doing, but it's been a while since we caught up. Can you bring me up to speed on what you guys have been up to?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I think, first of all, approach it from an industry perspective. Start there. I think, when Experience API was originally introduced back in 2012, there was a lot of fanfare around that and some of the possibilities things can be done. Really right now in 2014, we're in the early adopter phase. What we're seeing there is customers that are either simply trying to connect systems like a SharePoint or multiple learning management systems and aggregate that data into a single location. And there's early adopters, people that understand technology, people that are trying to go into mobile learning, those types of things. And customers are starting to get it. The other big wave we're seeing is people planning for Experience API down the road. As I mentioned, we're in the early adopter phase now, but I believe in 2015, right around 2016, you're going to see the early majority of B2B customers adopting Experience API because it does one critical thing that people have been asking for since the 90s, which is how can I look at the behaviors or business outcomes that are happening, or how can I measure the results of my training? So we've been working with companies that are outlining that map to say, well, I want to train on this. I want to see these specific behaviors at point of sale, or I want to see these specific behaviors demonstrated in the job or on the job. So how do I go about doing that? And they're finding wow, Experience API can connect, crossing that chasm between level 2 measurement over to level 3 and level 4 measurement. So adoption on tracking data and planning for what 2015 and 2016 could look like to answer some very simple questions around measuring data, but then also get into some analytics, which is what we're used to in our consumer world.
It's simple, but it's been something that's been hanging out there for a long time. We've been trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
And this is the opportunity right here, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's the one way. People have always tried to measure things, for instance, using surveys, did behaviors change, asking opinions, maybe even a mentoring program or coaching or something. So there's been ways to do that, and there's companies that do that out there, but really what we're talking about is also capturing that just-in-time learning and capturing that behavior change. Did it change with the use of the behavior we're teaching them in a customer service call or in a sales call or even in engineering in a meeting on something? Did that change? And with the Experience API, you can now look at some of the systems and tools that do that and track that experience that happened and make sure that there is some sort of business outcome that's changing.
Yeah, it's kind of a convergence of all these different technologies right now with mobile and Experience API and everything kind of coming together to make the perfect storm, I guess.
Yes, it is.
So you're starting to hear some stories, you're starting to see some success working with some clients, and people are implementing. These early adopters are able to get some results?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the exciting part is toward the end of 2013, about a year into the Experience API or so, people had been looking at it, planning it, these early adopters. So real life applications out there, not to go into our customers in too much detail, but large retailer. We're seeing some adoption there, absolutely. And from as I mentioned, we have won't mention the name of the customer, but a large retail customer, for instance, that is aggregating multiple learning management systems together. That's the first start for several 100,000 people. They want to bring that data, extract that data from there, and they also want to see what people are doing video-wise and looking at in their content management, some of their homegrown systems. So what's exciting about that and where it goes, though, is these reports go back into business intelligence and dashboards that their executives at the company are looking at. On a smaller scale, you have a service company, for instance, who is taking, they have a corporate university, as a matter of fact, and they're using WordPress as that functionality there, but they can deploy content in things that are outside of the traditional learning management system and bring it into the corporate university and be able to track that, be able to share content and things of that sort. So yeah, the adoption is definitely in play. Definitely early adopters right now, but again, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, you've got the majority of people starting to plan like, okay, I can see where this works. Right. So what does 2014, 2015 look like?
So, wow, that's impressive. It sounds really complicated, and I believe it's not as scary and daunting as what some people might think to be able to do all that. Is that true?
Yeah, I think before, people in the learning industry, it had to be a forklift of a learning management system. If you ever wanted to integrate something, for instance, you had to maybe get an SAP or some large consulting company that you know are out there to try to aggregate data in multiple systems because everything was proprietary, right? Well, now that we know at least half the equation is going to be Experience API coming into a learning record store, that takes a lot of pressure off. So instead of hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, depending on whether you're going to be integrating things, now you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars to be able to get started on a small scale, start importing that data into a learning record store, and then build from there.
That sounds very accomplishable, I guess, easy to accomplish, and it probably doesn't take a long time to do something like that. What's an implementation cycle look like? Yeah,
I mean, it depends on the scale, obviously, but you know, we have people that are signing up within minutes and starting to put in data on a small end of things. If they are using Adobe and those types of things and they're publishing, then they're ready to go and they can start sending stuff to a learning record store just as an endpoint. The more complex ones we talk about can take 60 days, 90 days, up to 120 days to start connecting and doing different things of that sort. But again, in the perspective of 90 days, 120 days is not a long time to get data, evaluate data, and then start to do the analysis you want to understand the measurement. Is it impacting business? Levels 3 and 4.
Yeah, I think that's the key, impacting business. How's it impacting our business? And that's why it's great to have access to that data.
Yeah, so, and some of the things that we're seeing in that, by simple analysis, you can take a look at things like top content and bottom content. So all of a sudden, you've got this top content that people are accessing, looking at, is getting a lot of attention, we'll say. But you also have bottom content, which we like to, we call it bottom content, but it's the content people aren't using. Well, why aren't they using it?
Right.
It doesn't exactly tell you why they're not. Because is it not valuable? Is it that people can't get at it? People don't know it's there? It could be an awareness issue.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is you spent $100,000 on creating all of that,
Right.
So was it a good investment or not?
Right.
It gives you an opportunity to look at it.
Or correct it. Yeah.
Correct it, sure. And you can start to look inside of content as well. So a particular test, for instance, question correlations. So if people are getting a certain amount right on a test, but not many people are passing, there's not a strong correlation there. So why is that? Gives you the opportunity for an instructional designer to look at those and answer some interesting questions.
Nice. So what are you excited about going forward? Where do you see, we're accomplishing a lot of great things. You have people implementing it. Where do you want to see this go, or what's exciting to you?
Yeah, I think it's going in phases right now. It's clearly, I said early adopters, it's clearly I want to be able to connect stuff and report things, completions, test scores, and some minor analysis. The really exciting part is about Experience API is the analysis function that we're going to get to that we see actually in our consumer world. And those are types of things like recommendation engines, prediction analysis, those types of things where you understand people are on certain paths, a green path, yellow path, red path. That's where the industry is going to be in 18 months.
Sort of Minority Report a little bit.
Yeah, if you get by the NSA watching this, certainly. That is a little bit of concern when people see this. But with that said, you can compare. You have enough data now in a single location. We've had data before, not in a single location,
Right.
and not with good analytics behind. The learning analytics market is 5 years, if not a little bit more, behind the consumer analytics market. That we see things like Netflix and Amazon and those types of companies, they've been in our lives for a while now. We're used to those. Learning market's not anywhere near that yet,
Right.
but will be, and people are planning for in the next 16 to 18 months.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I think that's a good place to let it set right now. I appreciate you sitting down and
Yeah.
talking to me and I'm excited for the success that you guys have had, watching, be kind of from the outside
Yeah.
watching it, and excited to kind of
Yeah.
continue watching what you guys.
Yeah,
do.
well, thank you. I mean, I think the most exciting thing is people in the learning and development industry that have wanted to do things finally see a way and have a way to do these things.
Yeah.
So it's very nice to be able to play a part in the evolution of the learning and development team. And Jeff, it's always good to see you.
Yeah, appreciate
good. I'm glad you're back in town. Actually, I know you're out traveling a lot, so good to catch up with you.
Thanks a lot, John.